Hi guys, Veno here and welcome to another entry in my 3am Rambles with Veno series of videos that I do. It's actually currently 12:30 am on Tuesday the 28th of January 2025. However, this series of videos is more of a concept than it is necessarily a literal statement of when they happen to be recorded. Most of these videos are recorded on or around the 3am time slot, however sometimes they differ in their time. Just to get that out the way at the beginning. Now we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about today's 3am Rambles with Veno. So in this particular, I'm going to start off in this particular video with a correction on myself. So in my previous video, my OTGV that I recorded over the course of 2 or 3 days last week, when I was still recovering from that flu. I'm still recovering from that flu thing, whatever it is. I've got a theory, I think I've said this in a previous video, that it might have been COVID. Because I haven't had anything like that knock me out quite the way it did, and I'm still recovering even now. But, you know, I have no proof because I've got no test kits, and test kits cost money nowadays. So stuff that for a game of soldiers, with all due respect, and the government and general society wants you to live with COVID nowadays. So it is what it is. I guess it's as common cold is going to become, or has become. COVID will become as common as the common cold. You know what I mean, I'm saying. Anyway, so when I was recovering from that, I did an OTGV. And during that OTGV, I mentioned some of Blur's albums that they released post that 21 box set that I'm going to be paying for in a few days' time. I spoke about Magic Whip that came out in 2015, and I spoke about the Ballad of Darren, which came out in 2023. I do believe. I thought incorrectly at the time that both of those albums were previously unreleased material that the band had recorded when they were still together prior to their separation, before the Think Tank album. I was actually incorrect. They actually did reform for both those albums. As I understand it, when Magic Whip, Whip, everybody knows that joke. Anyway, that's why I keep saying whip like that. I can never ever remove that joke, that Family Guy joke, from my head. Say cool, say whip, say them together, cool, whip. such a good joke, that one. So simple but effective. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. I thought I was about to get an interruption, but I did not get one, thankfully. Anyway, so yes, I do believe that when they reformed and then released Magic Whip, there was no tour or anything after Magic Whip, and that was the same idea behind the Ballad of Darren. However, they did actually go to Coachella in 2024, and they performed somewhere else as well. But I do believe that Damon Albarn has said that that's probably going to be the end of Blur touring ever again, which is a bit of a shame, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be any albums, obviously. But I was mistaken. Magic Whip is actually the first album to feature Brian Coxon after Think Tank, because he left when Think Tank was recorded, and I do believe it's the first album with all 4 members present, recording, what have you. And then the Ballad of Darren, also all 4 members were a part of that album as well, and it is all new material. I do believe if you buy the deluxe version of Magic Whip or Ballad of Darren, there are some unreleased stuff that Damon Albarn has done since the separation of Blur and what have you, but that's part of the parcel. When it comes to deluxe editions of albums, you often get unreleased material that they haven't released, on the main album, so to speak. So yeah, thought I'd put a little bit of a disclaimer in here just to say, yeah, I was wrong on that one, and Blur did reform for both of those albums to record them in the studio and release them, all of it brand new material. I was actually listening to quite a bit of the Ballad of Darren the other day. It's actually, I think, a bit of an underappreciated album. It's a very different album, which, looking at the background of the album, why it's recorded, how it's recorded, and some of the material that Damon Albarn has come up with, I can see why. Because from what I understand, it was conceived during COVID. Ironically, I mentioned COVID at the beginning of this video. It was conceived during COVID. A lot of the ideas behind it. So that makes a lot of sense, that obviously it's going to be a bit more of a melancholy, a bit of a more down, more somber, maybe even depressing album. But, you know, we do know that COVID is going to feature into a lot of media as time goes on, and definitely has inspired a lot of albums and films and what have you. So, you know, it's going to come eventually that we're going to get content, music, movies, TV shows, whatever it may be, that will feature that as a inspiration, so to speak. So recently, I've been really getting into Gorillaz. So I'll be honest, I haven't been the biggest Gorillaz fan, in ever, basically. I really like certain songs, but I've never been a massive fan of all their music, sort of thing. I actually stumbled across a video on YouTube that's been uploaded by the GZ or GZ23 channel, which I believe is all of Gorillaz' live shows collected together. I think it is actually associated with the band themselves. And there was a Glastonbury performance. Was it Glastonbury? Was Glastonbury performance. And I watched it from start to finish. Can't remember what year exactly it took place. But I want to say 2014. My brain wants to say 2014. I then watched a Demon Days festival performance. Again, Gorillaz, this is 2017. And again, really got into them. There's another one that they did in 2022 in Finland, my brain wants to say. It's in Europe somewhere. And again, I watched the whole thing from start to finish. All three of them 2 hours long, give or take. And I just watched it start to finish. And there's something about the Gorillaz performing live, or Damon Albarn and guests performing live, because that's essentially what it is. Just his rapport on stage with all of the guests, and his ability to bring so many different artists together to perform on stage. How he manages it, I don't know, but he does. There was actually one that I watched. From the start of it, it was Welcome to Plastic Beach with Snoop Dogg that's in it. And then right at the end, the last song they performed, which I think was Clint Eastwood. Is it Clint Eastwood? Might be Clint Eastwood. So that was an interruption. Anyway, where was I? See, I was speaking about the fact that at the end they played Clint Eastwood, and Snoop Dogg actually came out on stage and performed for that song. So I like the fact that they almost subverted your expectations, thinking that Snoop Dogg wasn't going to be there, and he was there. But the sort of the rapport and the companionship that Damon Albarn clearly has for his fellow guest artists, and they have for him as well, to be honest. But yeah, I really have gotten into their music recently, and basically I'm going to be buying all of the Gorillaz albums as well, like I said in that video that recorded last week. It's just a natural progression from going on from Blur, I do believe, going into the Gorillaz. But I've also been listening to some Oasis stuff, early stuff. Yeah, so getting prepared for that video that's coming very, very soon. But I did want to record this little 3am ramblings just to update you guys. I am still on the mend, not 100% yet, and I don't think it's going to be a couple of weeks before I'm completely 100% payday this coming Friday. And of course, I have a few things I'll be getting. Obviously, be paying for that Blur 21 box set, and then buying some of the Gorillaz albums. Yeah, and then going from there. At the end of February, I have Monster Hunter Wilds, and also not released, announced a few days ago was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection, which is a collection of Game Boy and Game Boy Advanced games coming to Switch and Steam. I'll probably buy it for Switch, to be honest. But it's a series of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games that were early Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. But there's a couple of games in there that I remember playing through emulators back in the day that were in Japanese and I couldn't understand them. I believe they've now been translated to English, and all of them come with the manuals and everything. So it's £55 on Switch, but it's 14 games, 14 different Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, some of which are straight up from my childhood. Some of the Game Boy Advance games that are on there I used to play religiously on Game Boy Advance emulators on the PC back in the day. So I'll probably be picking that up as well as Monster Hunter Wilds, and that will be my purchases for the end of February. So yeah, looking forward to that. I was kind of hoping that'll be released. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection would be released a little bit sooner and may tie me over until Monster Hunter Wilds comes out. But there is a new game by the same people that did Patrol Officers? Police Simulator? Is that what it's called? Anyway, the same people that did that are doing a paramedic game that's kind of similar. That's coming out the 6th of February. That I'm strongly considering. We'll see how the money pans out and plays out, and see if I can grab that as well. But that's the plan at the moment. I do have a couple of bids on eBay going at the moment for a couple of things, which I'll let you guys know about if and when I win those. But until next time, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this little 3am rambles with Veno, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra.